Welcome back to the People Development Podcast, brought to you by Living Water Consulting. Hey, on this podcast, we believe that growing yourself is actually achieved when you help to develop the people around you. I'm your host, Harrison Tash, and with me today is Mary Olson-Menzel. Mary is an executive coach of teams and individuals, a business advisor, speaker, and the founder and CEO of MVP Executive Development. She's the author of this book right here called What Lights You Up. Now, this book is all about how you can find those skills, those talents, those passions, integrate them into what you do to make money. And I think that you guys are going to enjoy this. And if you're a company leader or executive and you're wondering, how does this apply to me? I want you to listen, because we also talk about company culture and how you can keep people and how you can help them find possibilities. Now, this podcast focuses a lot on the skills and talents of individuals. So listen up, because she has so much to share with us. We'll see you on the other side. Just be sure to leave out the doubt. Time to wake up. As promised, we have Mary on the podcast, and excited about our conversation. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. So good to be here, Harrison.
Yeah. It's I want to start first with people just get a little bit of understanding of why you wrote this book, right? This is an amazing book, What Lights You Up. Really enjoyed the read. But give the audience a little bit of reason on why this book matters. Why'd you write it?
Yes. Well, I developed a concept about 15 years ago to help people pivot into jobs that they loved. And what I have seen through my many, many years of working is that when you're doing a job that you love, the rest tends to fall into place. And while I was out there doing executive coaching, I saw a lot of people who really were not happy in their roles, not happy in what they were doing. And so it was my mission to help them move into jobs that they loved, to help them get promoted where they were, expand their responsibilities and all of that. So I created a 10-step pivot methodology that became so popular that we had a waiting list of clients.
Oh,
And
wow.
when you're looking for a new job, you don't want to wait. And so I felt really terrible having this waiting list and making people wait. So I wrote the book. And what the book is basically, distilled into stories and inspirational, topics and exercises, actionable exercises that people can actually do to help themselves pivot or get promoted where they are and do what they love.
Yeah, well, I love that, and I think you're right. Like, as we're in lots of businesses, we see that there is a large percentage of people who may like little pieces of their job, but if you ask them, "Do you like your job?" Your job, right? They tend to be like, "Yeah, not. I mean, not really." Like, I mean, this seems to be a pretty large number. So when people say that, though, I know I can sense it in you that you're like, "Oh, but there's so much more for you," right?
Yes, 100%. I mean, it was there's a story in the book that is all about my parents and how my dad was doing what he loved and then had to step out into the family business. And stepping out
Mm.
into that family business kind of crushed his soul. So I saw it firsthand as a kid. And I really have been, watching for many, many years and making sure that my clients and the people that I love are tapped into what they love to do. And Harrison, no job is perfect, right? We've got
Right.
all kinds of different, things that we might have to do administratively or whatever in our jobs that we don't love. But if
Mhm.
80% of your job is amazing and 20% is admin or whatever you have to do, then you're winning.
Yeah. No, that's a great point you bring up, is that I yeah, 80/20 rule, right? That 20%, you're gonna have things that just fill in there. So let's talk about this. So what lights you up? I mean, when you say that, the title was amazing, by the way, but it just resonated right away. But when you say that, what do you really mean when you're like, what lights you up? what's the steps that you're looking at there as far as, okay, does this light you up?
It's really about what I call ikigai. Well, what the Japanese call ikigai. It is a word that means your reason for being. And it's the intersection.
Mm,
It's this beautiful Venn diagram of what you're good at, what you love to do, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. So it's
yeah.
really this amazing concept that is your reason for being here. And
Mm.
when I say what lights you up, I'm saying what gives you joy? What are you bringing to the table with your own natural gifts that nobody else can?
Yeah, let's camp there for a second. So when sometimes, now not all the time, but sometimes you ask people of like what brings them joy, they definitely have some things. But when you ask what are your talents or your skills, then it gets a little bit harder to like dissect that for some people.
It,
What are ways or methods that you've found that really helps people understand what they really are good at, their skills and talents, if you will?
yeah, I like to talk to them about being in the flow. When during the day do you feel the most in the flow? And what are you doing at that moment? And then if you're not feeling in the flow in your day, which some people aren't, like we said, some people are just like, yeah, it's a job.
Mm.
When you're questioning that, ask the people around you. Ask the people, your friends, your family, your coworkers, when do I seem at my best? When am I adding the
Mm.
most valuable value? And when am I feeling like I have a sense of purpose?
Yeah, and what are some common denominators or things that people are saying that it helps you kind of then understand what that is? Because I think
Well,
I guess I asked this, and I'm asking this in the sense of sometimes I feel like there are things that I can list out, but I'm not sure what to do with it, right?
yes, yes. Well, so there's two things. And one is creating what I call in the book a light log. So you're
Mm,
truly like listing all of the things when you feel the most in the flow, when you feel like you're actually bringing something of value to the table. And then you're looking at the patterns after a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months. Where am I seeing the patterns of what I'm really good at, what I'm enjoying the most, when I'm in the most flow? But also, there's another chapter in the book about, resumes and stories. And I
yeah,
always say, Harrison, a resume tells me your skills, but the stories of who you are sell me on you as a person and want to like I want to hire you if I hear these great stories. So I
yeah.
think it's really truly about how do you tell the story that highlights the skills that you bring to the table for each and every job.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So let's do some role play here because I think this is it's very important to do this, but it's hard practically for some, right? And I might be included at times. So if you're asking what lights me up, I'm gonna say stuff like my family or some of my hobbies that I like to. I like to paint, I like those things. But when you get more into the job, okay, what lights you up within your job? I'm gonna say things like I love it when I get to interact with a lot of people or I love leading a team, right?
Mhm.
I might say something like, I enjoy it when I get to shut my door for hours at a time and just dig into something that I love doing, like a project or anything that has to do with creative mind. I'm loving that, but I'm also loving the getting into the process and actually making it happen. And so when I start saying these things, how then you as a coach and a guide, I mean, obviously the book will help in some of this regard, right? But how
Yeah.
then do you take that and say like, well, how are we going to get you to be able to do more of what you love?
Well, that's exactly, and great question because that is what takes you into that sweet spot of ikigai. So, what I'm hearing you say, Harrison, is that you enjoy the creative process. And as we know from watching you and hearing you on podcasts, you are really good at bringing out the best in people and creating beauty. I'm looking at a beautiful piece of art behind you as well. So there's all of this creativity that's kind of oozing from who you are. So how do you take that creative genius and continue to make money? So
Yeah.
I really want people to keep thinking about, okay, if your job is not lighting you up, what are you doing as a side hustle? And is there a way
Mhm.
to build that into a real paying job in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, so do you think a lot of the interactions that you have, do they turn into that kind of conversation, or is it about, like, how can the organization help them use their skills and talents too? Because I think that's a tricky balance, right?
It is, and it really depends on the age and the stage that you're in your career. Right? When we're in
Good
our
point.
20s, yeah, I mean, when we're in our 20s, we wanna make money, we wanna build our career, there's so much that we're doing, which is
Mhm,
really more about moving up within the organization and making sure that an organization sees your skills and sees your value. So that is also about understanding that you're in the driver's seat of your career
mhm,
and not waiting for somebody to notice you. Really, yes, do your job, do it well, but also advocate for yourself and look for other ways to be of service within the organization. Are there ways to collaborate with other divisions and departments? Are there ways to take on special projects where the C suite notices you? So that's kind
mm.
of the moving up within your own organization versus turning your side hustle into a full time job, which is more happening when people are getting a little bit past like midlife and really looking at saying, wow, I've built my career, I've done all these amazing things. Now, how do I create more purpose and meaning?
No, that's a great point. I mean, yeah, if you think back into your early 20s working for an employer, you're really learning at that point, right? And it's like
Yes.
you're kind of going through the muck to figure out what you really do enjoy, what really does light you up. Because what I would have said in my early 20s versus what I'd say in my late 30s are completely different things.
Yeah, completely. Right. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah.
So,
And
and, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
no, no, and that's what I meant. I mean, people put so much pressure on themselves. Well, a lot of people, a lot of the type A's out there, if you're listening, you put so much pressure on yourself, but your your age and your stage of your career, things are going to change, your priorities are going to change, your needs are going to change, and it's okay to
Mhm.
pivot with each of those life stages and, differing priorities.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to dive into some things on the book, because after I read it, there was a lot of questions I had for myself. Like you said, there's a lot of good questions that help you think through it. So, one of them is like, how do we turn the actual light on, right? So how do we turn it on? Go into this a little bit of, like, now that you have figured out some of the things of your skills and talents, what lights you up, how do we turn it on? Like, what's the ways in which we do this?
Well, so much of it, Harrison, is showing up as who you are. And,
Mm,
sometimes, once again, we talk about, the 20s and 30s, and sometimes people think that they have to walk into, an organization with a mask on and not showing up
yeah.
as who they are. But what I'm urging people to do is when you come in and you're authentically yourself, that's when people start to see the light, the essence of who you are. When you allow yourself to shine in a way that is very natural for you, that's when people start to notice. If you're trying to be something or someone that you're not, stop now. Give up on that. Just be authentically
Yeah.
you and shine your brightest doing that.
Yeah, and I think of some past examples, and one of the CFOs that I still know really well today. He was an accountant brain. He could just dive in, do it. But as the company grew, there became needs like HR and being able to develop people and help with culture and gatherings. Well, he was kind of this unicorn. He could do both, and what lit him up was that, people interaction, helping people see, like, how they could be a part of this company that was growing. And naturally, his job, he saw a problem, or saw an opportunity, I should say, and then he was able to then shift and kind of did both. He was CFO and cultural leader, right? And then I think of things like that, and I wish that more people could see those kind of opportunities that exist within companies, because then they can, do that. But you said something so important, and I want to slow it down and make sure that people hear this. You said, just show up and be who you are. Like, be authentic, be genuine. I think that a lot of people struggle with this, and myself included at certain points of my career, because we see what we need to do and we don't see the opportunities that exist beyond just the needs, right?
Yes.
And I don't know. So I just bring it up as a point. Like it seems like there's a lot of opportunity out there to show up as yourself, and the opportunities are there beyond just what you do today.
Yes, and I think about it like a racehorse analogy, Harrison. So, you're this tremendously talented, fast racehorse, and you've been running, down this track and you've been winning all these races, but you got blinders on. So,
Mhm.
what I'm urging people to do is take those blinders off so that they can see the opportunities to each side to, see what else is out there. And I love your CFO story. I'm working with a woman who was a CFO and she's now the COO of this organization. And she is exactly like that. She's what I like to call a humane leader.
Mm.
She gets the numbers, she gets the strategy, but she really, really cares deeply about the people. And I think
Mhm.
that's another big aha for people is to remember that we're all human beings. The
Yeah.
companies are run by humans. So we are all imperfectly perfect, but
Mhm.
also understanding that there's a way to help your fellow human being every day.
Yeah.
If you just pick up your head and look around.
No, I like that. And I think we get caught up in the business, we get caught up in
Mhm.
the numbers, the daily operations. And you're right. Like like when you slow down and look out versus in, there's opportunity that exists just within that, which is a daily thing if you allow it to be, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, you're looking out, but also looking within and saying, where am I going to add the most value? But also, what's going to give me the most joy? And, I
Mm,
work with a
yeah.
lot of CEOs in transition and executives, obviously, in transition. And, as people get older, I keep saying to them, where's the fun? Are you having fun? This is something that our 20 somethings who are out there working and many of us are having fun, which is so great. I mean, I can tell that you're having fun. I'm always having fun with what I'm doing. But our 20 somethings are teaching us something, right? Where's the meaning?
Mhm.
Where's the fun? Am I going to get satisfaction and joy out of this job? And that's something I'm urging everybody at every level to look at. So it's
Yeah.
an inside job and an outside job.
No, I love that. I was just thinking, part of like for my company, the process right now is we're learning new systems, we're integrating new systems, and that means we're bringing on more salespeople, and I'm like, I just had at the beginning of the year, I had to think like, what's something I need a reminder this year because there's always a theme, and I'm like, the
Yes.
theme this year is to enjoy the journey, not the destination because we can get
Yes.
caught up in more, more, more. And I'm like, I just need to look out and also ask, am I enjoying this while we're doing it? Right?
Yes. Yes, so
Like, what's, yeah,
that's it,
yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, that is the secret. Is am I having fun? Am I enjoying it? Am I making a difference in the world in a positive way? But also, can I make money doing it?
Yeah, 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 for sure. Uh, yeah,
Reality.
yes, and yes, and so in chapter 2, I'm gonna quote your book here. It says, "You are here to shine your light. That is your number one job. Your light is a gift that you have had since the day you were born. When you see young children, you see most are naturally vibrant and filled with light since they have fewer filters in their relatively short lives. As a result, they are more connected to their true essence." So when you talk about being genuine, if you think
Mhm.
back to being a kid,
Yeah.
maybe just talk to this for a second here.
Oh gosh, it's about that natural exuberance. And you just made me think of a woman who lives down the street from me. She's a pediatrician. And she is one of the most exuberant human beings I've ever met. She's a brilliant pediatrician at a very large, New York City hospital. And she comes home and you can just see her walking down the street. Like she's excited about the sunrise. She's excited about the dog. She's excited about human connection. And I think, we as adults kind of forget that we can find that joy in even just the day to day things. So I'm also going to say, look for ways to find the joy in the day to day. Not every day can be perfect, but there are
Mhm.
perfect moments in your day. Look for those and enjoy them and appreciate them. Because appreciation, and I know we're going to get into this a little bit more, but
Yeah.
appreciation and gratitude just makes more good stuff.
Yeah. Well, for sure. And this kind of gets into some of the other chapters you have. I'm looking at your chapter list, trying to remind myself a little bit of what I was feeling when I was reading some of these. And the follow your dream piece, really, that was something that I was like maybe 5 years ago. I had to come back to, of like, what was my dream? It was like I had a dream, right? What was it? And
Yeah.
like you said, we lose it because as children, we just are being ourselves. And then you start
Mhm.
to learn your surroundings and things start to get in your head. But then it's like once you hit your career, you get busy, you think about money. Obviously, if you get married or you buy a house or some of these big life events,
Yeah.
it's like the only thing that matters is paying the bills, putting food on the table, and it's like what you talked about originally, which is how do you create passion and making money, not just making money. And where do you think, I'm going to get to a question here. Where
I
do
love it.
you think that companies can do better to help people actually live these kind of lives? Like, where does the organization take the control to help this? Because we have needs within our organization, but yet there's cultures that have figured it out within organizations of how to help people with this. Where have you seen success with companies that have done this well?
Well, what I love, Harrison, is more and more companies are putting an emphasis on learning and growth within their organizations. And now
Yeah.
it's been a wobbly, year or so. Well, it's been a wobbly more than a few years. But
Yeah.
what is really cool in the companies who I see who are doing it right are the ones who are investing in their people. Many, many years ago, it would be that, only the C-suite, all the C-level people would get coaches. Well, now that's getting pushed down. More and more people are getting coaches. More and more companies are embracing this concept of embracing your strengths, right? Tom Rath
Hmm.
and the Gallup organization have an amazing book called Strength Finders 2.0, and you can
Hmm.
just go, on Barnes and Noble or Amazon or wherever books are sold, get the book, take a little test, and then it spits out your top 5 strengths. And what companies are starting to look at are where are those people's top 5 strengths and how does that fit into the department and the organization as a whole? And really, building their teams around it, not making hiring decisions based on this, but building stronger teams around
Hmm.
people's top 5 strengths. And once again, like we said, the natural gifts and skills that they're bringing to the table on a daily basis.
Yeah, that makes, when you said the learning and development, there's probably some different sides of this that when you hear that, you're like, oh yeah, we train them to be better project managers or better customer reps, but you're talking about something even more, which is like the strength finding piece, which is how can we use the different strengths and skills of people. And that's not just we're just going to make you better at your job, it's also we're going to turn around and use it for the company's good, right?
Yes.
um you I think Google comes to mind when you say that, because they have this like 20% of your job, right, is for innovation. And this is like where Gmail came from, and the news, the Google News and all this stuff. And I think about, like, I know not a lot of mid-size, mid-market companies can do this like a corporation can, but in small ways you probably can, right? And you just kind of
Yeah.
mentioned it, learning and development, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's something that I do with my clients, and it's called a priorities and a possibilities meeting. And
Okay. Yeah, describe this. What is this?
yeah, so basically, you've got a team. They've got their marching orders, they've got huge deliverables for the year or the week or the month. But so obviously their priorities and their role has to be very clear on
Mhm.
what they're needing to do. But once you've had the, conversation about what are our priorities, what are our top things that we need to get done, then okay, if we get that all done, what are the possibilities?
Mm.
Where can we go from here? And that's this moment that these people in organizations or on teams get to dream a little bit.
Oh, I
And so
love that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
urge
keep going into that. I love that. I love
no,
that.
I urge leaders to do this with their teams on a regular basis so that they're allowing their people to dream and they're allowing
Yeah.
those great ideas to come through. And then, once you hit all your priorities, you get to look at those possibilities and really see, oh my gosh, we could make this place even better and we could have more fun doing it as well.
Yeah, I love that. There's actually some things that come to mind with this. There was a company that actually started giving out like multiple days to go help a 501(c), and I know quite a few companies that do this now, and really love that as a that came out of that kind of possibilities thing. Like, well, how could we, if you like this benevolent kind of thing, it's like, how can you help someone do that? I also think of like the innovative things that have actually helped companies. We've seen services come out of these kind of questions in
Yeah.
strategy sessions where you're like, this is what we do today, and it's like, hey, let's think beyond what we do today and quit talking about just how we're going to make more money, and let's talk about what are some things that we would love doing that is another service or another product or whatever. And it's funny because a lot of times if there's people that are leading those companies, if they love doing these kind of services that they talk about, it's a natural fit because it's like it's not work to them, it's another. And an example of this is like photography. We know a company that now they have a photography portion of their business that wasn't there before because there was someone who loved doing photography, and now they offer it to their clients as like an additional service. It's like, now
Very
why we
cool.
come in and do this for you, we'll now take, pictures of it and you get to keep it as like culture pieces and stuff. And it's like, that was a cool service that came out of the possibilities section.
Yeah, and that's a huge value add that now will set this company apart from their competitors.
Yeah, I was just yeah, as you said that, I think that if more companies did this, they would bring more value to their customers, right? Because you're using those skills, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And looking around and saying, how can we make our customer experience better? So it's not just about the employee experience, but it's about the customer's experience too. And typically when you have happy employees, you're going to have much happier customers.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a good point. We always think about the customers, being customer centric and the end result and all this stuff, but it really does start with the employees inside the company, right? And
Oh
if
yeah.
if
I
the
mean,
customer can feel that, yeah.
exactly. And, as a executive coach and a workplace success expert, I will walk into any, storefront, any, coffee shop, anywhere, and I will immediately notice the vibe. And
Mm,
if the employees seem unhappy, I wonder, what's happening with leadership here? Why are these employees unhappy?
yeah. Well, yeah, that ties right into what lights you up. If they're not lit up with their
Yeah.
strengths and skills and talents, you're gonna feel that as the customer for sure.
Yes.
Um, s yeah, it reminds me of, I saw one time there was an interview where they went to 2 different coffee shops, and it's funny because you mentioned coffee shops. So they went to 2 different coffee shops, and they were asking, like, why they liked working at each one, and it was funny to see right across the street, and one of them actually was a that they interviewed worked at both coffee shops. And
Oh,
they
interesting.
clearly were talking about this coffee shop more than this one, and the whole reason is because they were able to do things that they loved versus the other coffee shop, they were just told what to do, and I think that maybe ties in a little bit to the possibilities piece, which I love. Alright, so let's get into these 3 Ps as talk about this in one of your chapters. Develop your 3 Ps. Walk us through it.
Okay, so this is a really, really pivotal part of your job search. So many people, when they're looking for a job, they're applying to jobs. So they're like almost like passive job seekers, even though they think they're doing so much because they're just applying to these open positions and their resume could get lost in the black hole of a, applicant tracking database or some AI bot or whatever it may be. So it gets very, very frustrating if you're looking for a job like this. It feels like you're sending out hundreds of resumes and getting very little back. So I ask people to flip their job search inside out, to become very intentional and aspirational around what companies and what organizations they want to go after. So we create
Mm,
this list called the three Ps. And I love to, I'm going to just use my husband as an example because he's very passionate about certain things. He works for a media company right now. So if he was going to look for another job, he would look in the usual prospects, which is your first P, your
mm,
prospects. He would look for other media companies. Well, okay, that might be more of the same for him though. What about if he
mhm,
took his existing skill set and pivoted to a different company? So that would be, say, he's selling, movies and television shows right now. Well, what if he went to go work for a Google or even a Bloomberg or something like that and took his sales leadership skills and put them in a different direction? And
mm,
then the last one, which is always my favorite, is your passions. So we've got prospects, pivots, and passions. And
mhm,
passions is that sweet spot of ikigai, kind of what I'm doing right now, Harrison, and what you're doing right now, and, the value that we're bringing to the world, even having this conversation because we're passionate about it. But for my husband, just keeping him as the example, he's like one of the biggest football fans on the planet. So if he
okay.
would go into sales for the NFL or for an NFL team, that would be a passion kind of play for him. Does that
Yeah,
make
no, that
sense?
makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you talk about pivot then, typically it's thinking outside of the normal of how you operate or what you typically look for.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that makes sense. I think it's hard for people to do this and I would put myself in this bucket because it's like you build this experience in a certain way and throughout the years and it's like, oh, I'm a manufacturing person or oh, I'm in media, that's what I've done, like so I've been a part of news channels and stuff like that, that's what I do. And it is hard to pivot, but I like how you're saying it. It's not just pivoting to just a pivot. It's using your skills, talents, and passions and pivoting in a way that makes sense, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yes. I'm not asking you to go from being a sales executive to being an accountant. That would be a really long and hard pivot to do. What I'm
Right.
saying is, if you're in sales, pivot it to a different kind of an organization because, hey, a good sales leader can sell anything. You just have to learn the new product,
Yeah.
you know? That would be your
Yeah,
pivot.
no, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's like you take those skills and you can use them and apply them in so many different ways, but sometimes we put ourselves in these little buckets that we don't need to, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I would even say this happens within an organization when people are so there's a thing called the Peter principle, right?
Mhm.
We tend to elevate and promote people until they're incompetent, and it's like, I don't like that terminology that you say that someone's got to a point where they can't do it anymore. I think it's like we do that to ourselves though in the organization. We sometimes start to say like this is the next thing that I can do, and then it's just one path. But like you said, what if you're in sales and you would be a great at business development where you just go
Yes.
create relationships and create these open doors, but it's not your job to close them anymore. Would you be good at that? That's a pivot versus a completely different thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it might light you up even more, when you get
Yeah.
to have those deeper relationships and things like that with business development. So I like where you're going, Harrison. You're exactly on track. And I think it's just really interesting because it's just about opening your aperture, right? And understanding that there are opportunities around you that you might not even know exist until you start having some conversations with the leaders around you.
Yeah, love that. Um, you had mentioned gratitude beforehand, and I wanted to kind of like end our conversation on this because I think it's so important that we're missing this today. So I'll just leave it there. Why don't you tell us like you wrote a whole chapter on it. So
I
give
did.
us right. So give us a little bit of why this is so important.
It is so important because gratitude changes the way you look at things. And if you are looking at things from a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, if you're looking at things saying, wow, I have to change this, I have to do this, without saying, I get to I get to change this. I get to do this. Right? Looking
Mm-hmm.
at things from that different lens where you say, wow, I am so grateful that Harrison and I are having this conversation today. You know, are my kids home for spring break? Yes, but this is worth it. I'm taking the time. This is so much fun. And I'm grateful that we get to do this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful that it's almost spring here in the Northeast.
Spring,
Almost
yeah,
is the key word
yeah.
here. But when you're looking at, you hit the top of your success level, which I don't believe there's ever like a full top. Like there's always room for more growth and always room to keep going. But thinking about, wow, who are the people and who are the what were the situations that really helped me get to where I am? And how can I not only be so grateful for getting to where I am today, despite all the twists and turns, but then how do I create a path for others? How do I reach
Mm-hmm.
my hand back and say, I want to bring somebody else along with me? So it's not just gratitude for the sake of gratitude. It's really like this appreciation of the abundance that we can create in this world just by being who we are.
No, I love that. And the quote that comes to mind is from Ox Perlman. And he says, the most interesting person in the room is the most interested person in the
Yes.
room. And
Yes.
it's so true. Like, gratitude takes a a part of you that just requires a little curiosity and being interested in others. And I think I was listening to a Jocko Willink podcast one time, and he said in his prior position, he would tell SEALs that when they would get down on themselves, he would say, "Go and help somebody else. I don't care where you go. Go help your grandmother. Go help a 501(c). I don't care who you help. Go help other people, and you'll rediscover what your mission is. You'll rediscover who you are in the process, right?"
Yes.
Yeah, so I love that whole point of you want to figure out what lights you up, you better help others feel light lit up as well. And
Mhm.
it's a part of a process. So I love it.
Yeah, and
Well,
there's a
yeah,
really
yeah.
sorry, I'll add this on gratitude. There are 2 really great books out there on well, there's many, there's a million, but,
Yeah.
2 that I love are by, Chester Elton and Adrian Gostick, and they wrote, one just about gratitude and one about, gratitude and leadership. And
Mm.
it's really great because it's just that daily reminder that when you're grateful for things, you're going to start seeing more things to be grateful for. It's almost
Yeah,
like this, full circle moment.
yeah, for sure. And when we talk about leadership, you know, it's a top-down approach. So the more grateful you are as a CEO or an executive in a company, that's going to get pushed down to your employees. And you're saying that it's a part of what actually can help you figure out, discover, and live a better life, that one that lights you up. And it's like that has to come from an influence, and it's not going to come from the boots on the ground. It's got to come from the leadership and permeate into the company. And so I really love that you wrote a whole chapter on that. When I got to that chapter, I was like, yeah, amen, I love that, that's awesome.
I'm so
All right, so
glad.
we get into some rapid fire round, and then afterwards, I'll obviously ask you if you would leave some wise words with the audience. But rapid fire round here. Favorite movie? What is it?
I have so many. And, once again, having a husband who actually works for a movie company. I get to see a lot of them, but I'm going to go back to some old classics. The
Let's
one
do it.
that I'm thinking about is It's a Wonderful Life. And
Oh,
it's,
what a great movie.
here's this man, right, who by some people's accounts almost has it all, but he doesn't even know it. So it takes somebody else reflecting that back to him to realize how beautiful his life is. So
Mhm.
that's one of my all-time favorites.
I love that. Our kids just so my daughter and son are 12 and 10, and they just watched it a few years ago for the first time. And now
Oh,
the last Christmas season, they're like, "Oh, we've got to watch it." I'm like, "All right, yes, let's watch it."
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
And
movie.
actually, if your kids are, those ages, one of my new favorite animated movies is Moana. Because
Oh
there's
yeah.
Moana, who is, this beautiful, like princess, but she's yearning for more. She's feeling this calling to do what she loves, to do what lights her up. She's feeling this calling from the world to bring her natural
Mhm.
gifts to the world. And look at what she does when she's allowed to do it.
Yeah, yeah. It comes with some great music too.
It sure does.
Um, favorite quote.
Favorite quote. Oh my gosh, I have it on my desk. Um, and it's an unknown author, but it is peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of all those things and still be calm in your heart.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Now, doesn't
Yeah.
it kind of irk you when it's an unknown? You're like, where did
Yeah,
this come from?
I
Like, tell
know.
me.
I know.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, if
Yeah.
you were to go back and tell yourself something 10 years ago, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. You know, these sound so cliche, but they're so true. One is just do it, the Nike slogan. I mean, just do
Yeah.
it, right? You feel that, dream in your heart, just go make it happen. Go do it because you'll shock yourself in the things that you can do. And then also, while you're just doing it, don't sweat the small stuff. We get
Yeah.
so caught up, and that's why this piece, quote just appeals to me so much. We get so caught up with like all the noise that the world throws at us, and really, that's we can only control certain things. So control your little part and make it the best you can.
Yeah, love that. I'm going to add in here that if you haven't picked up Mary's book, What Lights You Up, you can see here if you're watching the video, I got tabs of notes here from this book. Really loved it. Mary, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best place?
Yes, best place. I mean, if you heard this or watched us, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect there, but also our website, which is MaryOlsonMenzel.com. That gives you everything you need to know about the book. There's a free downloadable workbook that you could just get immediately before the book even comes into your whatever form you order it in. And then if you want bigger leadership and all of that, we have a website for my company, which is mvpexec.com.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I encourage them to do so as you've done such great work over the years. And obviously, I started following you not too long ago, and I won't regret it because this is wonderful material. So pick it up, and we'll have all that information in the show notes as well, so people can find where those are at. Mary, what would you leave us with?
I would leave all of us with, focus on the joy, focus on the fun, and do what you love. It will never, ever steer you wrong.
Well, thank you for being on the show today. We greatly appreciate having you on. That wraps things up for us today. Join us next time where we continue to learn together how to develop ourselves and the people around us. Please don't forget to share this podcast, write a review. We're on all major podcast platforms. See you next time.